Continuing on with our resume section, in our education bar in our resume, we have a few different styles that we need to apply, and you can't really see them in our mock-up, but it's very subtle and it'll set us up for our work experience section as well. So what you're going to see here is we have a title for the name, so that's Crater School of Business, Innovation, and Science in the education section. And then we have location, Central Point, or, and then we have the date, graduating June 20, whatever. Each one of these sections is actually a separate div container within our education section, and we're going to use these same div containers for our work experience. So we're going to set that up in our education piece, and then in the next tutorial we'll go on and fill in and put in our work experience content. So I'm going to tab over to Dreamweaver, and we're going to start in our style sheet. I already have these lined up for us, these div containers. I know what size we're going to make these, and so I'm just going to go ahead and start off by making these div containers in our resume section. So we left off with the resume contain line elements or list elements, and I'm going to find that curly brace right after that last style there and hit the enter return key a couple of times. And we're going to start this off with a class, and we're going to call these ed-job-name. So these are going to stand for, these are going to work for two different sections, and we're going to open up a curly brace, and these are going to be div containers. I'm going to float these each to the left. So whenever we float an element or whenever we float a container, we need to give it a width, and the width of this is going to be 500 pixels because it's going to be the name of a business or our education, which is going to be the longest of our or the widest of our div classes. And then I'm going to give it this some padding, and we're only going to give it padding to the right, so 0 pixels on top, 10 pixels to the right, 0 bottom, 0 left. And that's going to be it for that div container. And then next we're going to do the next div container, which is going to be another class, and this one's going to be ed job dash location, LOC. Open up a curly brace, and this one's also going to float left. Oops. And width on this one is only going to be 160 pixels wide, and same padding treatment that we did on the other one, so it's 0 to the top, 10 pixels to the right, 0, 0 the rest of the way around, and then enter return key, and then open up that curly brace. And then last but not least, we have our date, so ed job date. Open up a curly brace there. We're going to float this left again, and width wise is going to be 250 pixels. And you know what, we don't need to do any padding on this one since it's going to the very right of all the other ones, so it's already going to get that spacing that we want out of it. And so we're going to close that off with a curly brace. We can test these pixel values in a little bit. We might be able to add a couple here and there, a couple of pixels here and there. But let's go ahead and start with what we got here and make sure that our content is going to fit what we have. So I'm going to drop over into my source code here, and I'm looking for the last section here, the div class content main wrap top, where our profile is, and we have a closing div tag right down there in the bottom right after my list item. And I'm going to start after that closing div tag because we're going to create a gray section. So I'm going to hit the enter return key here. And before I start my gray section, I want to just make sure that I've start fresh, and I'm going to do that by inserting the break tag with the class of clear / and then close that out with the right caret. It's a self-containing, self-closing tag. And we're going to start this off with the div class and this is the content secondary wrap. Make sure you get that wrap right in there. Content secondary wrap. Right caret, and then enter return key, left caret /, and then use your arrow key to push up on the top of that empty line there, and then tab in. And then next is going to be the div class that we created for the resume. Resume contain gray is what we're looking for. Right caret, and then enter return key, left caret /, and then push my cursor right up above there in the space. I'm going to tab in, and we need to type in our first div container here, which is going to be for the name of our school. So left caret div class, and then ed job name. So all this is doing is allowing me to separate my containers here, allowing me to separate my content on this single line for these pieces, so I can spread them out and use different types of tags to make them look nice. So I'm going to tab in there for ed job name, and this we're going to use a heading 1, right caret, and I'm going to type in Crater School of Business Innovation, and I'm going to use the ampersand there, symbol, and science, and the left caret /. So, oops, I take that back. I want to make this an H2. I want to change this to an H2, so it's not the same heading as my piece there, and I think that's what I forgot. I forgot to put in education as the subheading instead of the name right there. So where I have div class ed name, I need to put a heading right above that. So I'm going to place my cursor right before that opening div tag and hit the enter return key, and that way I have a space in between there where it says div class resume contain gray, and then div class ed job name. So that's going to be left caret H1, and then education is the text, left caret /. Okay, now we're back on track. Alright, so after this, after my closing div tag right here where it says div class ed job name, where that closing div tag is, I need to find the ending div tag there, hit the enter return key. Okay, so if you look at where I'm at right now, I have 2 closing div tags down here on the bottom below, and 1 closing div tag above. If you see that, you're probably doing okay. I'm going to open up another left caret here, and this one's going to be div class ed job location, right caret, enter return key, left caret /. So I close that out right away so I don't forget to do that later on and end up with an error in my code structure there. This one is going to be an H3, so I'm going to type in a left caret H3, left caret / to end that statement, and move my cursor right in between. So the location here is central point, or comma, or, okay. And then last but not least, we have the date coming in after that. So I'll locate that closing div tag right after central point there. If you click on that closing div tag here, you'll see that what it highlights is it highlights the opening div tag. This is kind of a handy feature in our Dreamweaver code hint, that when you click on the closing div tag, it shows you where it starts so that you can locate that easily. So after that closing div tag, I hit the enter return key, and then this one is left caret div class, and this one is going to be ed job date, right caret, enter return key, left caret /, and then move your cursor up in there, tab in so it shows that this is nested. Another H3 tag here, left caret / to close it, and then move your cursor in between those 2 carets, and this is where we're going to type in graduating June, and then 2000, whatever you're graduating in, 2017 or whatever. Okay, so the next piece is I need to insert a little bit of a an unordered list for the description of my school or the description of the job or whatever it might be. This needs to go underneath the ed job date, so I'm going to locate that closing div tag right there. So I click on that closing div tag right after graduation, graduating June 20, and you'll see that that's the top of that. So I need to place my cursor at the end of that closing div tag and hit the enter return key. Before I start my unordered list, however, I want to make sure that I've cleaned up any floating errors, because we floated 3 div tags next to each other, and sometimes we have some residual effects of floating from that. So we're going to insert our break class of clear that we use quite often. So we're going to left caret br and then class and then clear, and then make sure you hit the / and right caret to close that statement out. And then go ahead and hit your enter return key, and here's where we're going to insert our unordered list to put in our description of what Creator School of Biz is all about. So left caret ul, right caret, enter return key a couple times, left caret / and then move your cursor up, tab in, left caret li, right caret, left caret / to close that out. Okay, so I'm just going to take some of my lorem ipsum text from above as part of my description here, and I'm going to Control C, Command C, and then paste that in between those 2 line items. You should take that directly from your resume. And let's go ahead and pop over to our Firefox page here where we have the start of our resume, and hit refresh. And what we should see here is a couple things. One is we have our 3 different columns here, so it looks like they're spaced out pretty decently for right now. We might need to adjust those later on. We'll just go ahead and leave them as it is. The one thing that we haven't styled yet, though, is the H2 and the H3 that goes inside of these div classes. Remember, we used the H2 and H3 elements, so we definitely need to style those to make those different than our education header and so on and so forth. So tab back over to Dreamweaver and pop back into our style sheet. We're going to go ahead and find where our heading 1 is for our styles, and because we're just going to go ahead and style these universally for our entire piece. We don't need to style them for ed job name or anything like that. We're going to style these the same for our entire document. So where I have resume contain white H1, resume contain gray H1, I'm going to locate that, place my cursor right after that closing curly brace, and hit the enter return key. We're going to do the same procedure. We're going to type in resume white and H2, and we're going to do the same thing for comma resume gray H2. That way we can style the same element at the same time for both of these sections, and hit the enter return key. And we're going to do a little bit of a margin treatment here. 15 pixels on the top, 0 right, 0 bottom, 0 left, and then we're going to change the font size here to 1.4 EM. And then the color we're going to change to our gray color that we've been using. Oops, forgot the pound symbol. Don't forget that. Pound symbol 595959. Same gray color that I've used in other locations. And this time we're going to reduce our font weight here to normal, just to give it a different look. That way we're not 2 bolds in a row there on our resume page. So we're going to take that out. And then last but not least, we're going to make this text uppercase so that it is, you can still see it pretty easily on the resume page, but it's different than your subheadings. Okay, so hit the enter return key and then right curly brace there. That's what we need to do for our H2s. And then for the H3s, we do the same treatment, period, resume white, H3, comma, and then period, resume gray, H3, and open up a curly brace. We're going to do the same margin values as we did above in the H2s, so 15 pixels on top, 0, 0, 0 the rest of the way around. Font size, we're going to reduce it down to 1.2 EM. And color wise, we're going to do the same color as the H2 that we did, so 595959. And last but not least, we're going to go ahead and change the font weight to normal as well. And end that with a right curly brace. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this, toggle back over to Firefox, and hit the refresh button and see how it turned out. Not too shabby. Now here's where our problem lies, is our 500 pixels width here is not quite wide enough to fit science all the way in there. A bit of an issue there, so we might need to adjust that just slightly. I think we have a little bit of room to get the rest in there, so let's toggle back over to Dreamweaver real quick and locate that ed job name right there, and let's change that width to, we're just going to go in very small increments. We're going to try 510 pixels and command save that, so we're just going to add 10 pixels to the width there. Toggle back over to Firefox and save it before I do so, and refresh, and boom, there we go. So it fits on one line. That's what I'd like to see. I think I might even have a little bit more room here. Let's do some math. Let's toggle back over to Dreamweaver here. So I have 510 pixels plus 10 pixels padding, so that makes it 520. Add to that 160, that is 680 and 690 with the 10 pixels padding there. So then add 250, that gives us 800, 940. That gives us our exact dimensions that we need. Well, we have our setup here for education, and the next piece is going to be our career, or the work experience. And since we've created these div containers already, the rest of the work experience should go by pretty quickly.